just start off tonight's cabinet. Evacuation procedure. I think everybody in here knows how to get out of the building, so I don't need to cover that one. Apologies, everybody's here, so no apologies. Declarations of interest, can I take it as everything's on paper as well? Yep. Minutes. Is everybody okay to sign the minutes from the last cabinet meeting? Public consultation. Mr. Smith, Mr. Concord, and we'll be speaking of different items on the agenda. This meeting is not being recorded nor live streamed. When on the microphones, when speaking into the microphone, please move the microphone into position directly into you to improve the sound quality. When you're finished speaking, please turn off your microphone. So straight on to number 6, update for the local development scheme. It's on page 18, and this is a portfolio holder, Councillor Rob Rose.
Thank you. I'm proposing to move an update for the wording and timetable of local development scheme, which is essentially a document which identifies current planning policy documents which are being applied in the borough and provides a 3-year project plan that outlines the placement of the planning documents. There's a couple of things amongst others. So first of all, it's regarding the examination. So timetable has been amended to bear in mind hearing dates and likely consultation on main modifications of borough plan review. New timetable states examination will be from February 2024 to February 2025. And it is then anticipated that the inspector's final report will be sent to council in February 2025. There's also a call for employment sites that was also carried out between August and September 24 to ensure evidence-based documents are up to date during the review process. And scheme also refers to timetable of gypsy and traveller site allocation development plan document, which has effectively now been adopted. So document therefore has been moved from the section of proposed documents to existing documents. And there are some minor modifications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we've got two speakers on this, yeah. Mr. Smith, would you like to do your 3 minutes first?
Yeah, the updates to the local development scheme. This scheme, as long as it's been in operation, has been a disaster for the borough. People making decisions on it, are not the people that live here and that pay for everything. It's executives, councillors in here, yeah? There's absolutely no input from the people that have to pay for everything. None at all. We get 3 minutes here, which you completely ignore anything that we say anyway, and carry on doing what you're doing. Corporate interests have been driven in this borough above residents' wishes, yeah? Although we've had to pay for everything. It's an absolute disaster, yeah? All of it. This document gives far too much power to people like you in here, yeah? To push an agenda that no residents would support. If any residents could read what they're paying for, you just wouldn't get paid. None of you. Yeah, you're driving this through, you've legalised it, yeah. None of it's lawful. dig up legislation after legislation that allowed you to do as you wish. Yeah? Implored people to drive it through, and sadly our politicians just stick their hand up when they're told. Yeah? They have no input into this. None of them have read all this documentation. Yeah? But the executives who are actually running this council, yeah, say stick your hand up when we tell you it's legal, and you do it. None of you question anything. And there's actually rules that say you can't question it. Yeah? Nothing these people, these executives in here, or central government directs you to do, you're not even allowed to question it. Yeah? The rules of the council said so. So we have no representation at all in this borough. Yeah? It's just central government policies. The housing policies in this borough have been shocking for decades. Yeah? And continue to be so, more so in this. And you give, the powers it's giving you lot are shocking. And as soon as people stop paying for all this corruption, yeah, because none of it benefits the people of this borough. We've got no say at all. You can't speak for us, because if you go against what they say, you get disciplined. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Does anybody have any points of clarification of Mr. Smith? No? Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Comico. Would you like to start, and then you'll have your 3 minutes. 3 minutes is ticking.
The delay in the borough plan has been catastrophic. It was supposed to be February 2023, we're supposed to get a new plan. The Conservatives delayed it for a year to save money. Various other things have delayed it and knocked it on. And now we're talking about summer of 2025. The previous version was adopted in 2019. It's really, really important to have a good local plan. And it's really important to have low targets, because if you don't have a low target, developers will come in, if you haven't got a plan or you've got a high target, and force through development where we don't want it. They can do very poor quality development and we can't turn it down. And so it's a disaster. And then the new government is talking about even higher targets for our borough, based upon an equation that really disadvantages our borough, because the housing numbers are based on percentage of population multiplied by a ratio derived from average wages to average house prices. And because the wages are so low in the borough, and they do wages by where the employment is, the ratios work out really bad. So we really need a borough plan as quickly as possible. We really need it to have a reasonably low development target. We can always approve plans that are above our target. Having a low target doesn't mean you have a low delivery. It means developers have to come forward with good development. Having a high target means we can't turn things down, and we have horrendous costs for planning inquiries, planning appeals, etc. And we've just won 2 planning appeals about 2 or 3 months ago, which I attended. It was a lot of work for the officers, a lot of money for the council to win those 2. There's one more outstanding, and if we don't get this local development stuff right, we will end up spending hundreds of thousands of pounds more on appeals, and we will also get poor quality development. The development of this borough is really bad at the moment. Developers get away with an awful lot. The new plan is only marginally better than what we've got, but marginally better is at least an improvement. But we need a plan, and it's just not got the emphasis it needs. I seem to be the only councillor attending the borough plan hearings. There were a few weeks ago we had the first session. September, the next session of plans coming forward. But it's a very dragged out process. And I don't think residents realise if you don't go to the local plan and argue your case, once it goes to the planning committee, it's very difficult to turn down something that has been approved by the local plan. So I ask you to take this seriously and expedite it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Concord. Does anybody have any points to clarify? Okay, Councillor Rose.
Yeah, thank you for very constructive comments from both. I think from my side what I'd like to say is that I put myself a target is that in a further work I will be stressing on that there is necessary public consultation made on supporting information which goes in there. And I welcome discussion around that. I think in respect to this specific document, this is essentially a document about policies, set of policies and timeline for those, which I think is likely that the further discussion can be done around review.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor, did you want to speak? You didn't want to speak on anything else? Okay, no problem. So are you? So we need you to move the recommendation.
Yes, as I said at the beginning, I propose to move.
I'll second that. Second, we'll vote on this recommendation, please. Thank you. That's passed. Move on to item 7, which is a cemetery update on Bookshill and Attleborough. That's on page 37 in this portfolio order. Councillor Tim Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of corrections on the agenda and in the report. So the request for this report came from OSP by Councillor Collett, not Councillor Wilson. Yeah, so on item 12 it just says recommendations made review and scrutiny panel, so it did come from Councillor Collett on the OSP. And also another correction in the report, it does say Camp Hill Ward, and the cemetery is actually in Galley Common Ward. We have been doing an incredible amount of work up there. We've worked very closely with Warwickshire County Council's flooding team. We've identified a number of issues up there, mainly lack of maintenance over several years. There were trees in ditches, the brook alongside the cemetery at Buxhill was completely overgrown, water wasn't flowing through it, there were issues going down to Arkle Brook in the bottom. So we're having work done at the moment, that's ongoing. Attleborough, we've identified a drainage system going from Attleborough Wreck underneath the railway that we're having cleared, so that's going to be jetted and cleared. And that's for water coming off the railway embankment and going alongside the bund, and then that actually goes underneath the railway and out into the sewers on the main road. So yeah, that's ongoing and we hope to get that all sorted.
Okay, thank you. So we've got a couple of speakers on this again. Mr. Smith, would you like to go first? And then we'll 3 minutes.
I think this is just systemic. The disaster that this corporation has been for the area. Years and years of neglect of the borough, its infrastructure, whilst raking in hundreds of millions of pounds. Where it's all gone, who knows. Just decades of neglect. This corporation has been an absolute disaster in the last 50 years of its existence. Yeah, and continues to be so, and will continue to be so, until, as what should rightly happen, it should be bankrupted. Yeah, and we should get a proper public body in here to run local affairs, because this corporation is without any credibility. I've lived here all my life and watched this corporation destroy this town over the past 50 years. Last decent thing that happened, 72, in Bedworth, yeah, when the public and the public body built the Civic Hall, paid for it, yeah. That's the last time anything decent happened around here. Since then, debt and desertion of duty. in the 50 years this corporation's been here. Just a disgrace, all of it. And the sooner it was bankrupt, the better. We can get a public body then, with real public servants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Does anybody have any points of clarification? No, thank you. Mr. Concord, would you like that? Then I know I don't need to tell you, but on the item that's on the agenda, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm passionate about getting our drainage sorted. We probably about 20 years ago had a land drainage engineer on the council, or an engineer who part of the time did land drainage. And it's basically been forgotten for the last decade. Nothing's been maintained, everything's been passed as being someone else's problem. So it's really pleasing that we've done a little bit of work investigating a small part of the chaos that is land drainage. And the whole system of land drainage needs maintenance. We had the Delaware Road problems a decade or so ago, down to lack of maintenance. We've had, I've been down all the ditches of Weddington trying to work out what happens when it rains and removing tree stumps and bricks and all the things that are on the patch I used to represent. And a lot of it is we need people to actually get involved, and when issues are reported, actually having some maintenance, and nowhere do we have a maintenance budget that's big enough to keep drainage maintained. And we have this awkward mixed responsibility between the borough, the county, developers, landowners, everything else, that makes it virtually impossible to keep the drainage maintained. But the other thing is, I think we need a catchment area look at drainage and flooding, because some of these problems will be worsened by the building higher up in the catchment. You know, we built in Galley Common, it goes down into Bucks Hill Cemetery. We build out in Whitestone, it comes down Paul's Land and into Attleborough. All these things need a big approach as well, to actually put back some of the ponds or put equivalent storage in, widen ditches, and actually look at all the water courses. And not just make them clear so it all flows down, because then we just have a massive flood in the town centre, but actually work out where we need to store water, hold it back or do stuff. So I think there's an amount of work we should set up a task group or something to look at the drainage issues in the two catchments, because we've got the Nuneaton catchment, which is the anchor catchment, and then we've got the River Sow, is it? The ones that go into Coventry direction. And both of those need a good look at where things are going wrong. But I am pleased we have made a start. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Concord. Does anybody have any points of clarification? No? Points of clarification? Okay, yeah. No? Okay, thank you. Next one is... yeah, you can, but I've got Councillor Concord, but you...
It doesn't matter which order.
Councillor Concord first, because she's actually down.
I'm sorry, I'm getting these up. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I did say Mr. Concord, and I say Councillor Concord. So Councillor Concord.
You want Michelle?
Well, I'm pleased that this issue is seriously being looked at and addressed, but Keith already mentioned it needs to be alongside general maintenance, you know, not just in the places which have had reported flooding, but everywhere, and particularly in the cemeteries, because I've had over the years quite a few people contact either Keith or myself when I've stood as a candidate about Oaston Road Cemetery as well. And so we need to try and sort out these things proactively before there's actually an issue. And particularly around Bucks Hill, it is partly county because I've been down Skey Drive, however you want to pronounce it, and that road, bit of rain and the road floods, so the road's not draining, and then obviously that will tip over into the Nuneaton Common on the one side and the cemetery on the other. So, you know, Keith's already alluded to, it is a bigger issue and things, but you've made a good start. So, you know, hopefully the issues will be sorted, but I know it takes time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Concord. Points of clarification, Councillor Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thanks for your comments. I agree with a lot of what you said. Regarding Skey Drive, we are Currently, there were issues with drainage off the road, again, lack of maintenance, 4 years, all silted up. We are addressing that, we're going to clear that all through, that's being done imminently, so hopefully that should be sorted on that side of Skate Drive as well. And it is devastating for people with relatives in the cemeteries, you know, when they're flooded, of course it is, and we are addressing it. We're aware of all the issues with lack of maintenance over the last few years across the borough, and it is something that we're addressing. Thank you.
Councillor Jenkins, Councillor Collette.
Firstly, again, apologies to Councillor Condicor. I was getting mixed up with my ex-councillor and current Councillor Condicor. Sorry. Firstly, thank you very much to the officers for the report. It's very helpful. In particular, thanks to Councillor Jenkins and to Councillor Watkins, both of whom spoke to me after the meeting last time. This is a very distressing issue. It's not a partisan issue, and I don't know who writes the Nuneaton Labour Party Facebook page, but they really shouldn't have tried to politicise this issue, because it's of enormous distress to people, and they threatened not to produce a report, and it's very good that this report has been written, and it's very helpful. It's a step in the right direction, particularly with Bucks Hill. I'm still very worried about Attleborough. As I mentioned to Councillor Jenkins last time, I was actually present at the meeting in March, which was organised with former MP Marcus Jones. Network Rail were present, which the Labour Party Facebook page was claiming there'd never been any meetings with Network Rail. But hopefully it can be progressed now, because at that meeting Network Rail promised they were going to undertake surveys and they were going to undertake relief of all the blockages, so it's really important that they play their part and represent their role, so that it's not the ratepayers who are having to bear the cost of it. But again, thank you to Councillor Jenkins and thank you to Councillor Watkins for prompt action and responding in the right way to the motion that was passed at the OSP.
Yeah, okay. I would just like to say something on this as well. No, you're right. We don't bring politics into this, but it has been lack of maintenance for a number of years, especially when we find a tree that's been stuck in one of the ditches for a couple of years that, you know, it's only just come down. But we have, with Attleborough, gone back to 1800 and something, so I can assure you we have done our own work on this. And when you do see me with my head down a Victorian drain, that is what it's doing, looking at a Victorian drain. We have done a number of things on both Attleborough and Bucks Hill. We obviously can't say that we solved it, because we don't know, but we're hoping so. County have been really helpful in both Bucks Hill and at Attleborough. They came to Attleborough after Bucks Hill. But Network Rail, I have emailed them 2 or 3 times now. Still waiting for a response. You get the obvious bounce back reply, but still waiting for a reply off Network Rail. And then when they do email back, we will meet Network Rail on site. One of the things we did notice about both Attleborough and Gallicommon was all the road is blocked as well, so that's not helping either cemetery. They're now being cleared by county, so county are helping us with this. So we'll move on to the vote now. So Councillor Jenkins, you're moving the motion, and I'm happy to second that. All those in favour? Okay, thank you, that's passed. On to item 8, Regeneration Update Capital Programme and Abbey Street Phase 2. This is over to Portfolio Holder, Councillor King.
Good evening, everybody. The purpose of this report is to update the Cabinet on the progress of the Regeneration Capital Programme, to update the Cabinet on the identified budget pressure within the Regeneration Capital Programme, Abbey Street Phase 2, to seek Cabinet approval on proposed revised Regeneration Capital Programme and associated movement of funds via the Pathfinder pilot. In relation to the Abbey Street development, the true cost of construction, including fees, is higher than the 50.82 million approved in February 2024, and as a result, 3.5 million gap has been identified between the available budget and the total cost of delivery. The recommendation mentioned will allow the delivery of the project.
Okay, thank you. And we've got some speakers on this from the public. Mr. Smith, can you please stick to what's on the agenda, please?
Sorry. Well, other than scrapping the whole project, I can't see how anything can improve it. Really? 20 million, yeah, the hotel. Whoever sanctioned that and asked for it should face criminal charges. Yeah? No one in the borough knew about it, but the people in here who sanctioned it and added £20 million to the debt of residents. The residents have to pay back with interest. Added to, yeah? It's been handed over to Hampton and Hilton.
Mr. Smith, I have been quite patient with you. I need you to stick to what's on there. This is about the regeneration. This is about the regeneration phase 2. This is not about the hotel. I'm trying to give you the chance to have a say. But please stick to this, please.
Phase 2 should be scrapped. Simple as that. Scrapped. Turned back into a car park.
Is that saying that?
Yeah? Because the residents of this borough cannot afford to fund it anymore. Yeah? We can't afford to fund it. We didn't know we were funding the phase 1. We funded all of that. Yeah? We're paying for it. Phase 2 should be scrapped. Yeah? And the financial dealings of the whole project should be investigated. Yeah? We've got old people, yeah? We've got a lot more pressing things in this borough, yeah, than this nonsense, where people are borrowing money, yeah, that residents have to pay back. You just never asked for that. We were told 150 million, yeah? We were never asked, yeah? Had you gone to be elected, yeah, telling us we were going to get 20 million debt for a Poundland Hotel, no one would have got elected on that. He got elected saying that he had £150 million and then plunged this council into near bankruptcy. Like I say, phase 2 should be scrapped completely. Utter rubbish. A cinema. Yeah? It needs to be a car park like it was before. £500,000 a year we got off that. What we're going to get off the hotel? We're going to get a note. Yeah? Scrap it, turn it into what it was, a car park. Yeah? You ain't got the money, don't borrow any more money on the back of residents having to pay it back. Simple as that. If you do, yeah, like I say, the whole project should be investigated. The financial dealings of it, whoever allowed people to borrow money for it, should be investigated by the public, in public. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any points of clarification? No? Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Connick.
Thank you, Chair. As I said at scrutiny last night, there was a consultant... Oh, sorry. Is that one better? Yeah. As I said at Audit and Standards last night, there was a consultant's report done into all the redevelopment projects, which resulted in the pause of £43 million worth of them. I think that consultant's report should be published and given to the Audit and Standards scrutiny, so they can actually have a look at all these projects and the value for money, what we stopped, why we stopped them, etc. And I think that report should be in the public domain. We have a problem about traceability about what's going on. We think you've spent £45,000 on public art, not you personally, but obviously the previous administration. And there was never a call for anyone to have that contract. It was just awarded to another corporate. And there's a whole lot of stuff in there. £120,000 has been paid to the new cinema operator, whether the cinema is viable or not. There's lots of questions to ask about what's happened. And then going forward on phase 2, we've seen a diagram of phase 2 that was presented to the business forum, which was crazy. It had a cinema in the middle of a car park with a really appalling layout and an unsafe road system. And I hope we're actually going to get those designs tweaked. I do want us to finish off the development. I think we need to do it as cheaply, as economic as possible. But we also need to make it work. We need to make it work for where the bus stops are, because an awful lot of our population are elderly or disabled or children and teenagers. They'll all not drive to a cinema. So we need to make sure it's right for all modes of transport. We need to make sure where the cycle racks are and the disability access. I mean, the crazy multi-storey car park that was going to be in phase 2 had no disabled access from the side nearest the cinema. You had to go to the Rowan Ringway end to get out if you were in a wheelchair. So there's lots of things we got wrong, or not we, but the previous administration did. And now we're doing a new design for phase 2. We want a set of drawings and go through them before you sign the contract to build it, to make sure it works for people catching the buses, people on bicycles, people in wheelchairs, because otherwise we're spending another 20 million badly, and that's not what we want to do. We also have the issues with the Bridge Street project, which was a basket case right from the go, particularly because where the flood risks are. Really the best thing to do a lot of the Bridge Street project is actually have it as parkland or car parking or a mixture of two, and only rebuild a small section of the new building, but actually on Bridge Street have a big open area, because that would allow events to go on, market to spill out or whatever, but also it takes account of the flood risks and all the other problems we've got in the area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Concord. Any points of clarification? No. And I think, to be fair, Mr. Concord, I have said that I will see you about it then, so I will meet you and we can go over a few things. The next speaker is Councillor Concord.
Thank you. Again, a lot of it's already been covered, so I'll just pick out a few bits, because there seems to be a bit of discrepancy with what I'm seeing in this paperwork and what was said at the councillor update that county did yesterday. You're moving money away from the Bridge to Living project, and I think that phase 2 of Abbey Street is more important to actually get done. I mean, we should only be doing one project at a time, because we haven't got the skills within the borough, not within the borough, but within the council to be managing all these things. I mean, the single member the officer decision made yesterday, just highlights that there isn't the skills to manage all these things within the council. Because yesterday we was told that the Bridge to Living project is being rescoped. You've taken most of the budget away from it, 3.5 million, which brings it down to only something like 4 million, if that, left for it. Keith already suggested, and I could quite agree, and people would like more green space and things. So actually, forgetting about trying to build stuff there, if we could have a lovely open link from the town through to the gardens, through to the park, that would be much, much better way of spending that money. There are also a couple of other bits in here. I know the update is generally about the Abbey Street phase 2, but on the list, on the table 1 on page 47-48, it talks about Corporation Street / Queen's Road Junction and says that's WCC led, whereas yesterday's bit that went to audit and standards implied that had been sort of cancelled altogether. because county didn't mention it at all in their update on transforming Nuneaton. So, you know, things aren't sort of quite tying in. So I'd like some clarification as to what things are definitely happening, what things aren't, and who is actually going to fund them. Because Wheat Street Junction, it now says that county are taking that forward, but not with any money from they're not getting any money from the town funds and all that was, yeah, we had there and things. So, you know, okay, but are they still ploughing ahead with the Corporation Street Junction and things? You know, I'd just like a bit of clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got my notes. We had the meeting Tuesday on it. Yeah, we did have a meeting on Tuesday, which will confirm everything that you've just asked Michelle. But if Tom would like to update on the transforming the meeting, yeah, okay.
Just briefly cover that one point around Corporation Street, Queen's Road Junction. So Warwickshire County Council are the leading body on that. We're a funding contributor, so we have some funds come to this council which has contributed towards that scheme. The decision was made here not to contribute that funding, but the future of that scheme remains with Warwickshire. So it's not for us to say as a district council that's not going ahead or not. My current understanding is that they haven't got the funding for it, but that's not to say that there's not a need there recognised in the future. So if they said yesterday that's gone entirely, then that's the decision of Warwickshire rather than the district.
Okay, Councillor Clare, are you okay? Do you want? Right. So, any cabinet member wants anything? No. So, don't worry about that.
Can I move the recommendation?
Seconder, Councillor Hay. Can we have a show of hands? Okay, thank you. That's moved. Next item is item 9, the General Fund Budget Monitoring Quarter 1. And this is Councillor Steve.
Thank you, Chair. My how time flies. We're at the end of it and into the next quarter, or we've gone through one quarter. In terms of the general fund monitoring, you'll see over the page on paragraph 4.3 and particularly paragraph 4.4 that there are pressures on the budget coming through, but on the other hand, there have been other things that have happened that have resulted in a net balance so far of 0, which is what we want. So on that basis, I'll be moving the recommendation that the forecast outcomes issued for General Fund 2024-25 be noted and consideration obviously being given to the key variations which we've reported. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I have some speakers on this, and we'll start with Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, can you stick to what is on the agenda, please?
Sorry, not for me. Right, thank you. This report lacks any real accounting, like most of the information that comes out of this place. The people benefiting from this report are basically marking their own homework. This council hasn't turned out a set of approved accounts all through the last administration. Obviously you people have just got in, so none of this is of your doing. The last administration could not get its accounts ratified by anyone independently. So any information put out, it lacks any real substance. We don't know where our money goes. Only that obviously we pay an awful lot for executives that really shouldn't be here. Dire financial predicament that this council's in. As much as you try to hide it, it's obvious by the lack of work being done around the borough. Somebody don't turn up unless you pay them. Yeah? this council has been left in a dire financial position, yeah? And keep turning this out, you know, and expecting councillors, the new councillors, to put their hand up and say it's all right, yeah? Because they can't say it ain't, because the rules say they can't say it ain't any good, yeah? Anyone looking at this, the reason it's done here is because no one sees it. Even when you filmed your stuff, no one's seen any of it. No, people don't bother now, they've given up mostly trying to make any sense of what happens in here. But these are desperate times and our communities are suffering, yeah? We shouldn't be wasting money on unnecessary projects, and we should certainly be accounting for what we're getting in. It's an absolute joke of a situation that we're in, yeah? We've got 6 people, we're paying over £500,000 for this nonsense. My granddaughter could do a better job, yeah? And we're accounting for where money comes in and where it goes out, yeah? And where waste can certainly be cut, and that's certainly from the management in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any points of clarification? Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Smith, I can assure you that we are taking the business of making sure that our accounts are audited and the auditors are caught up with as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Kunkel. You have your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'll use the working microphone this time. This place seems to be falling apart. I don't know if there's any money in the budget to fix some of the dilapidation that's happening. But there's lots of big items as well. Probably the biggest, if you look on here, is the £1.1 million, which is the revenue cost of our effectively capital programme. And you haven't changed that in the progress. But obviously, us borrowing the 28 million we need for the hotel and everything will have a cost on here. So it'd be useful if the portfolio had a look at the phasing of that, because actually the hotel being late may actually have saved us quite a lot of interest money. But I'm very concerned about the creep on that, because yesterday, as Michelle mentioned, a single member decision was taken to employ at £6,000 a month someone to help manage the hotel, because the people we hired didn't have the skill set. And that sort of add-on is really worrying. We knew we were building the hotel 3 years before it opened. So why the day it opened are we now having another consultancy fee? It's these sort of things, and I know it won't probably be your fault, it'll be the previous administration, but we need to get a handle on all this creep and paying consultants vast sums of money, because the consultants who are paying to manage these projects, the PV Centre, Queensway and all these people, they're on a monthly retainer, a massive monthly retainer. And so all these costs need bringing under control. And I say I am very concerned about lots of things. And I mentioned planning, because not having a good planning team, planning officer, local plan, means we're then getting costs in our revenue for obviously planning appeals, etc. And every time I win an appeal with the officers, or anyone wins an appeal, we save the council money. And when we lose an appeal, the council has to pay costs. So I do hope we get the planning issues sorted, and understand that getting planning right, and we've lost the head of planning, a new good head of planning can actually save us money and bring us income. Doing it wrong, and this continuous make, do, amend with planning, is very, very costly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kunkel. Any points of clarification?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Conacher, I can assure you I am with you on all this. There's a lot to be looked at, and we will be monitoring it. And of course, the Treasury Department in the Finance Department will be looking at the borrowing and trying to make sure that's as effective as possible. So I am with you on this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Michelle Conacher.
Thank you. Whoever did the tables and things, thank you for, in the non-printed version, i.e. the online version, for putting the surplus in red. It makes it so much easier to see what's going on, particularly for someone like me who's not totally good with all accounts and things. It just made it so much clearer, so that's great. So thank you, and please continue to do that. One of the things that showed up quite clearly was a reduced Sherborne, the MRF income. I don't know all the ins and the outs, obviously, and things, but I'm just thinking that there's plenty of opportunity, I would have thought, to actually increase recycling. I know it then further in the report says that there's been an increased cost of collecting the recycling, which implies to me that maybe more is going into the recycling. But if it's not good quality recycling, or people are putting the wrong stuff in, so a little bit of money may be spent on education may well repay, itself quite considerably there. So I hope someone's looking at that, please. And 4.7, additional external legal support was required for environmental protection, causing a pressure on the general fund position at 30,000. I can only assume that that is the case that came with against the wildlife sanctuary, which obviously they won on and appealed against. It should never have happened. Obviously, there needs to be more looked into on that. I obviously have only read one side, but from what I have read, the wildlife sanctuary were investigated. They were found not to have breached the smell aspect. They were given a few suggestions of other things to do, which they did. Then further complaints came in, which, from what I've read, again, were anonymous, but they seemed to be accepted, and the case was just sort of ploughed forward when, if there was no substance to it in the first instance. I just don't understand why it was pursued, because we've all paid for it. We've had to pay some of the costs.
Can just stick to what's on the...
Well, it is.
You're talking about a legal case now. We really
but we need to look at why that happened, because it cost us a lot of money, and we must make sure that doesn't happen again. Another thing that in there, vacancy savings within economic development. My instinct, and I've mentioned this umpteen times over the last few years, I know some of it is just difficulty in recruiting, but I think it's a false economy not to have someone with good economic development background to actually be working for us. That would probably in the long term save a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah, that's thank you for that, Councillor. Do you want to come back on anything else, Mike? No. I'd just like to say that we are looking at everything. The maintenance budget we are looking at came into obviously a lot of things that we didn't expect to. So we are working through everything. Do you want to move the recommendation? That's all right.
Thank you, Chair. So on that basis, can I move the recommendation in paragraph 2.1, the forecast out-of-term position for the General Fund 2024-25 be noted with consideration given to key variances. Chair.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that. I'll take a vote. Okay, that goes through. Right, item 10, the housing revenue budget. That's both myself and Councillor Hay. So to give you a little bit of background, this is the General Fund and HRA revenue and capital budgets for 24-25 that were approved by Cabinet and Council in February 24. This report is a detailed update of performance against the HRA revenue budget as of June 24. The recommendations that the forecast out-term position for the HRA for 24-25 be noted with consideration given to key variances. And on this we've got a number of speakers again. Mr. Smith, can you please stick to what's on the agenda?
More vague information, although it is interesting to note that the biggest outlay we have is in supervision and management. Yeah, hardly surprising. The half a dozen lads and ladies on the front line won't be surprised by that either. Yeah, the pyramid's the wrong way up here. Yeah, we have very few frontline staff that are not tasked with debt collecting. Yeah, very few left, and we have a huge management structure. Yeah, 6 executives, 9 deputies. Yeah, contribute a lot to that 11 million, no doubt. Like I say, none of the financial information that comes out of here is of any real value. It doesn't give the public any information as to where and what their money's being spent on. Yeah, no involvement. Yeah, like I say, everything's pushed through. Like I say, no outside scrutiny, and there hasn't been for years. Yeah, I think it's a little bit too much to ask of the new administration to get their head around this. You know what I mean? It's a ridiculous situation we find ourselves in, where the previous administration appointed 6 directors, yeah, to push an agenda, yeah, change all the rules, and to continue pushing their agenda with their legislation and company rules. Our councillors are not running this council, it's the executives using the council rules and legislation to push stupid things like grace and place. Yeah? Continuing to do so. And it has to stop. We need some serious accounting. Serious. We could do with an outside body to do it. Someone from the public of this borough, yeah, a decent accountant to look through the books here, yeah? And it ain't the people on benefits bank accounts we need to address, yeah? It's the people in here and their associates that we need to see their bank accounts and address that, and the companies that do business with this lot. That's where our problems have lain for years, and still lie there, yeah? Until there's some proper accounting in this place, none of the accounting that comes out of here makes sense to anyone, yeah? It's merely marking their own homework. Said, oh yeah, it's all good, boss. We're doing great. Pay me again.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any points of clarification? No, thank you. Mr. Conoco, would you like to start? Yeah.
Thank you. There's a few things in here. I mean, the housing revenue account's bigger than the general fund. That could be improved. I think one of the issues which we kept talking about in the previous administration was getting our garages back in use. Our non-dwelling rents are £590,000 according to this report. Obviously we have garages that need to be demolished and aren't fit for purpose, but we also have some that could be refurbished and brought back into use. And the previous administration's idea of not doing anything because they were doing a new review for years and years was not helpful. So I do hope that someone's looking at the garage estate and actually trying to sweat that asset a bit more. The second thing that really annoyed me is the utility costs. If you look in here just for the wardened housing, we're on almost £300,000 of gas and electric costs for those. And when they refurbish places like Reg Haddon Court, beautiful roof facing south, they never put any solar panels on. Putting solar panels on as a one-off job is expensive. When you're refurbishing a whole massive roof, that is the time to whack some solar panels on and massively bring down the electricity bill for Reg Haddon Court and potentially produce an income. So we really need to be looking at these opportunities in the housing estate because it does have a lot of large roofs to add solar, and particularly when you re-roof, that roof has then got a 30 or 40 year life. Absolutely ideal time to add solar and bring down the utility bills to those places massively. Yeah, wardened housing, there's people in them all the time. They have a nice, useful base load to actually generate from electricity, and also things tied in with that, landlord lighting and getting the energy bills down for these places, because we don't want to spend £300,000 almost on electricity and gas for our wooden houses if we can actually slash that by 100,000. Yeah, it is something we should be looking at doing. Solar panels are dirt cheap. As soon as interest rates drop off, the business case for doing it is a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Concord. Anyone wants clarification? No, I'm going to Councillor Concord.
It's all right. Keith has covered what I was going to say.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure you do know, Mr. Concord, that I do look at things like solar panels and that, but a lot of our independent living units might look like really strong roofs, but they actually ain't. But on the new builds, we are installing solar panels and things like that. So we are trying to be as green as possible on the new builds, and I will continue to do that going forward. Having said that, I'd like to move the recommendations at 2.1. Can I have a second for that, please? Councillor Hay, can we move to vote? Okay, everybody's there. Thank you for that. You do much good. Item 11, capital forecast. Did you want to speak on anything? No. Item 11, capital forecast. Again, Councillor Hay, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This is obviously the quarter one report on the capital budget and everything. You can see on the page, paragraph 4.5, that the projects are on track, and at the moment we're looking at the thing being all in balance. So all I'll be doing here is moving the recommendation on paragraph 2.1 as we consider the quarter one forecasted capital outturn position for 2024-25 for the general fund and the HRA. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Got speakers. Mr. Smith, you've got your 3 minutes starting when you start speaking. Can you stick to what's on the agenda, please?
So at the risk of repeating myself, yeah, appropriate information. It would be good if we written in proper English. None of the figures here, like I say, none of the accounting is a good enough standard for anyone to make a decision on, really. It's shocking, considering the figures we're talking about, yeah, the amounts of money we're talking about, the accounting and the information here, yeah. Well, we're talking hundreds of millions of pounds going through this place, yeah, and it's accounted on the back of a flag packet, yeah. How much debt we're in, goodness knows. Yeah, none of that information. That's what residents want to know. Yeah. This is. I'll say just. It's not meant to be enlightening anyone. Yeah. And that is possibly why, like I say, none of the accounting from this place goes outside of this place. Yeah. If we show that, I've run my own business. Yeah. If I would have turned that out with a turnover of £100 million, yeah, to the accounts, I'd be in jail. Yeah, if I'd have put that forward as an excuse, yeah, for accounting, I'd be in jail. With the amount of money that's going through this place, and how you continue to get away with it, I don't know. Well, I do know, but we ain't got time to go into that. But as I say, that accounting, shocking, shouldn't be allowed. Residents need a real accountant in here. Thank you very much. Thanks for allowing me to speak. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And good night. Mr. Concord, you have your 3 minutes.
Chair, a lot of this stuff has obviously got zero variance because it's too early in the year yet. But I think we should be looking at which of these capital projects will slip into next year. Because obviously plans are never realistic. Officers dream we can do all this stuff in a certain timescale. And the other problem is we only have a 1 year timescale. If you look at the equivalent report at the county, there's columns for each year. And that way, you say the hotel cost 20 million. This year, it might cost 4 million to do this bit, but it might have cost 14 million the year before and 2 million. So can we please look at doing it the way county does it? So for the capital projects, we have a total cost line and then we can see which year, because at the moment we have no idea for the multi-year projects. If you spend £10 million on a project that costs 20 million, are you halfway through the project? Yeah, it's so hard with these reports. And also, we have the issue with Grayson Place, Abbey Street. Absolutely everything has been put into phase 1. If you look at the invoice over £500, everything, including the money for the cinema, has gone into Abbey Street phase 1. So we've got no idea how much phase 1, phase 2, etc. The whole of the accounting system should be telling us how things are going, but because we look at 1 year and clump everything together, it's as clear as mud. On the housing revenue account, I'm really glad we got the 360,000 for Cleaver Garden Road to be sorted. I know we've both, Chris and myself, have been pushing this for many years and had lots of stupid comments about it's our credit or whatever. But it's really good it's happening. I am concerned they're planning to do it right in the middle of the flood season, because anyone going to rebuild a road at Cleaver Gardens should know it's get covered with a foot of water at some random point between November and February. So I did tell them it does need sorting out. And I see we've got like 15,000 on here for garages. I do hope we're looking at things like that and seeing if there's more we can do to get them rented out, because there is work we can do that then generates an income, because you can rent that garage for £1,000 a year. So if you do it earlier, you get more of an income. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in here as well. Obviously, some clarity would be useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Concord. Any points of clarification?
Thank you, Chair. I understand your point about this showing the phasing of capital projects and what have you. Can I just ask the officers, is that something we can look at, please? Yeah.
Yeah, so I take your points on board, Keith. It's something that I'm looking at doing, coming from accounting myself previously, so it's something that we need to do, obviously, forecast on slippage and acceleration over the whole life cost of the programme as well. So it's something that I'm looking to now develop into the capital report, hopefully for Q2, if not it'll be for Q3, and then something to also feed into the budget setting timetable as well. So yeah, obviously we've got pressures elsewhere, which is taking precedent at the moment, but that is a plan for the future.
Thank you, Liam. Because I thought questions for clarification of you, Concord, but yeah, I'm glad to see that Cleaver Gardens is coming along and will find it. We've done after years of trying to get council to do it, and I'm not bothered when they're doing it, because as long as they're doing it, it's getting done after all these years, and the residents should be happy, so that's good. The garages, it's not highest on my priority at the minute, I've got to be honest with you. Council houses, it's not higher on my priority at the minute, but I'm not saying I'm not looking at garages, it's just not the highest on my priority at the minute. The next speaker is Councillor Michelle Concord.
You'll be pleased to know I haven't got a lot to say. I was just concerned, and this sort of thing comes up time and time again, some of the costs are higher because you've had to use a lot more consultants and what have you, and it's high turnover of internal staff. I'd like to just have some reassurance that, you know, there's sort of a bit of an analysis of why people leave. I mean, I know quite often it's probably just been offered better rates somewhere else, but, you know, sometimes it's because they can't stand the person in charge of them and things like that. And it's important to actually, you know, understand these things to try and sort that out, so it's not a recurring problem. And also, hopefully, some of this stuff that, you know, you found needs doing in the council houses, electrical stuff and what have you, hopefully, you know, if that's done well, it'll last for years and things, and we'll actually reap the benefits soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Concord. Yeah, you're right, we do look into why people leave, but unfortunately, we're not the highest paid authority. So, Councillor A, do you want to move the recommendations?
Yes, yes, thank you, Chair. So if I can move the recommendation of paragraph 2.1 to consider the Quarter 1 forecasted capital outturn position for 2024-25 for the General Fund and HRA. Chair.
Thank you, I'm happy to second that, and can we move to the vote? Thank you, that's everybody's in agreement with that. Item 12 is recommendations from OSP, as it says on the non, but it was actually, so if I put that in, Kelly, could you put that in please? Thank you. Item 13, any right on, there's no